Should be live. Awesome. Hello and welcome to the Lorelines, everyone. Fowlin Hawk speaking. This week we are discussing Favnair, the rest of it anyway, Garlemald and Mari Lamentorum. I hope you guys are excited. We've got a lot to go through today, and here we are on episode 42. So we've got Meowth, Cobran, Core Healer, Ayumi, Neela, and myself. Arden will not be here today. She is feeling ill. We wish her well, and that's about all I got for the intro. So welcome, and glad to be back.
Today I found out that Fao thinks that there is a Spanish cough.
Wow, we're leading with that, huh?
Leading with that, huh? I didn't have my headset on, and I heard a cough, and I recognized it as Meow, so I made a joke.
Okay, but for real, I'm sorry, a little off topic here, but they did an interesting study about babies in a hospital that was on the border of like Germany and two other countries, and I'm forgetting the other ones.
Oh.
Germany, France, and something. And they legit found that babies cry with different accents.
That I did kind of know, but I didn't know that that was actually confirmed. That's awesome.
Fao, you're quiet.
Am I quiet?
Yeah, especially in comparison to Yumi.
Great, I'll pick up the gain here. There we go. How's that?
Better.
Better?
Much
or
better.
Best? All right, we'll boost it one more time. Hello!
Confirm Fao is boosting way.
Boosting. Boosting away.
Boosting way.
Thank you.
Obviously,
Thank
we're going to have to talk about the Locrits.
Boosting in game.
Oh,
Do
that's funny.
favor us with your lovely voice.
Mixing way.
Mixing away. Absolutely glorious. I love these names. There have been a lot of those names on Twitter lately.
I mean, we could kind of guess which one is our Loporit name.
Napping way.
Coughing way.
Oh my gosh.
My favorite one that I've seen is actually a retainer name on 14 called Undercutting Way.
Yes!
Amazing.
Thank you so
Jesus.
much.
Are you the one that just sits in the market board and just undercuts by one gil every time?
Oh, absolutely.
That's appropriate. We should be doing that, but I think...
And then when somebody calls them out on that, call that double downing way.
Double downing way?
Ah.
Yeah.
Don't be a Debbie Downing way.
The undercut wars are real. In fact, I'm starting to wonder if there's a bot that people are using because you get undercut by the same user within like minutes. So, starting to wonder.
So I'm sure you all are here to talk about, Garlemald and the Tower of Zot and all that.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
Garlemald is
Yeah,
a
where do you
tower
wanna
of
start?
Babel, but
We got lots of towers in this expansion.
So I'm trying to think
Fair.
where we left off regarding Favnair. I think we were talking
It's almost like an
about-
Enix game.
We were talking about some of the comedy aspects and the alchemists, and we didn't quite get to the tower.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Um,
The whole Favnair first branch, I went from this is interesting, this is cool to just shrieking because I'm like, oh my god, we have a real voice for Fandaniel. Oh my god, he's king. Yeah, I had a good time with that scene.
I was
Why is
thinking
his
of you the whole
legs-
time.
Oh,
I was like, Neil is having an excellent time now that we're actually getting Fanny Boy's actual voice.
I wasn't.
Oh,
I was
man.
like, where the fuck's his hat? And why is it in my inventory?
nice.
Getting the double revelation of him being Ammon and Hermes. Like
I
his
wonder if
actual
there's
ancient name
extra
is just
text.
insane.
If you are wearing his hat and talking to him.
Oh my god.
That would be
no,
very
amazing.
funny.
I know we
No,
should try
this is Amon.
I know
Like,
we should try this. I should.
like that Spider-Man scene where you just point to one another.
hey.
I see
mean,
you
that was-
stole my clone's clothing.
I recently played through that segment on my Fandaniel alt, and it was exactly the Spider-Man meme the whole time. I took a whole bunch of screenshots because it was great.
Just one of you has the hat on and the other one has the robe on, and just like, what?
I mean, like in the scene when he was watching the alchemists and stuff, and he makes the that was before the double voice, because he starts
It was,
wondering what's the name of that man. Owen. I was like, fucking Owen.
Yeah, I kind of
"Are
flipped
you
a little bit there
fucking
too.
kidding me?"
Yeah.
And then it wasn't Owen, it was Amon, but I was like, oh my fucking god.
Well, I think he was referring to how Amon knew Owen back then.
Yeah,
It was
and
yeah.
told
definitely
him,
an
"No, we're not
indication that he
doing
knew the
temperament,
guy.
Pure. Yeah.
It was
Oh,
very interesting,
we-
actually. The because at the time when we first saw the Owen recording, it was all like, oh, but the Ammon, the whoever, however he referred to him,
Yeah.
but he referred to him as
Lord Amon.
it was clearly Ammon, Lord Ammon. That's right. Was like, no, we don't need that. And I was like, are
Then
you
stripped
an
him of his rank.
Ascian,
Good
sir?
team. Go team.
Apparently, it was just a pre-Ascian, but good enough.
I wanted to say
As soon as the revelation happened, I was like, my, such unruly guests. Oh my god, it always was him.
What did you all think of I'm Always My Own Worst Enemy?
My heart.
I am
That's
my
it.
own worst enemy.
Yeah, okay.
That was
You're
in
banned.
the scene under the moon in Garlemald with him and Xenos, right?
In
No,
Garlemald,
in
that one was.
Favnir during the
Oh,
scene
no.
where he's
Yeah.
watching.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I was sitting there. I was sitting there like before he showed up. I was like, hopefully, no one messes with this cure they've just found, or not cure, but the scales,
Yeah,
the thing they've
the
just figured
scales.
out. And then I saw him there and was like, oh no. And then he was like, I'm curious, and I'm like, oh, who?
Yeah.
My impression honestly was that a darker, perhaps better game would have had him mass murder all of them and stop being a dumbass.
Yeah.
I feel like it's confusing to me because later on he kind of says it's not the case, but it's a case of saying one thing and doing another. And his
Yes.
actions say to me that he still wanted the test that he set up with Kairos to go through, because
Yeah.
now he
Yes.
remembers it after his raising.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
I think you're right
He
about
says,
that.
I don't care about that, but his actions all say, I care about this.
We'll get to
Yep.
that later as well, but during
Yeah.
the Zodiac trial, he says as much, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the very
Mhm.
end, he's like, well, hey.
Will Heidland's champion be able to
Yep.
figure this out?
Yeah, he references stuff with Hermes a lot in that point.
It's really, really cool.
Yeah,
Is it
he
crazy?
says
Dude.
in it was in Cataclysm, prove me wrong, I sneer. So that's one of his lines when. But we'll get there, I guess.
So let's start with after the great work. Like let's start with the appearance of Fandaniel and his voice changing.
Which is actually that same scene.
I had paid a lot of attention in Raktika to when Elidibus did the voice change thing in the 5.2, so I immediately recognized what was going on. I know it's for some people it was a little confusing or whatever, which is understandable, but like I was like screaming.
It made a
Well,
little
I
more
mean-
sense to those of us familiar with Ascians that it
Yeah.
was like, they would have an assumed voice for their body that they're holding on to, and then
Yeah.
like an actual voice.
Yeah,
I didn't wanna
overskinning themselves, so they can overpower it and put their.
You
actual
see it
voice
with
on it.
Elidibus. You
Yeah.
see it with Elidibus
Yeah.
and Ardbert.
He just
I
straight
didn't-
talks with Ardbert's voice unless he doesn't want to.
Mhm.
I didn't want to assume anything right away, so I wanted to see how it panned out. So I initially took it as, oh well, he's speaking through another kind of voice or masking it, or this is what you thought it is. This is his original voice. But I was like, I want to see this pan out because there has to be some type of underlying thing here.
Yeah.
I was not let down.
At first, I was like, I don't know about this new voice, but it really grew on me really fast. By the
Mhm.
time I got to Hermes, I was like, this voice actor is so good.
I did
He
actually
is
Really-
so
feel-
good.
Oh, go
Work,
ahead.
incidentally, like amazing work by this voice actor.
Yeah, they did a great job with him.
Go ahead, Meowth.
No, I was saying that he truly is a great voice actor. Like you can difference, you can literal difference between Amon, between Fandaniel with between Hermes.
Oh,
yeah,
I
it's
guess
very
between
distinct.
Zodiac,
It's
but
very
Zodiac
distinct.
is pretty much Fandaniel.
You
Yeah,
can hear it's the
it's-
same
hijacking
voice, but you can
Zodiac.
also tell it's a different personality, different memory set.
Mm.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
It's
basically
really good.
Asahi if he screamed his voice out for too long and he got a little hoarse.
I don't know if you all saw the
So
joke
nice.
that Kolrath said, but he said Fandaniel finally hit Ascension puberty. Good for him, TBH.
Tee.
When the voice change hits.
I
See-
felt a little bit like they forgot what the character was, because to me the change between late Shadowbringers and this early Stormblood appearance or early Endwalker appearance made me feel like they changed the character, and I didn't know if that was because something was coming or if that was because they had taken too long of a break and sort of forgot the voice acting style. I wasn't disappointed because later on, you do hear that earlier Fandaniel voice.
Mhm.
When he's going nuts in Garlemald.
He sleeps
I
sometimes
was going to say, I'm curious
into
exactly what
Asahi's
you mean by
voice.
that, because I'm curious what you mean by forgot a little. I'm just, because I paid a little bit of attention to him. I might have an idea, but I'm not sure what you're referring to.
His voice had changed, like the acting style had
Ah.
simply changed.
Oh yeah, no, that does make sense to me. True. I believe they actually went back and changed a few Asahi lines.
They did.
Yes.
But
They did.
also,
So I think they were maybe doing an intentional shift, but who knows?
Maybe, yeah. But also, I mean, one might imagine that the Fandaniel who's on a stage in front of all of Eorzea saying he's going to destroy the world maybe has a different affect than the one who's on a ledge with nobody knowing he's there.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, they may have gone into that intentionally. They may not have.
Mhm.
Either way, it still works.
It works, yeah.
Shadow Meowth, were you going to say something?
If I were to going to say something, I actually forgot.
So let's go into the Great Works scales and how they affected tempering.
I thought this was super
Basically-
cool, but I have one big issue with them, which is Fandaniel is like, these look really familiar. They look almost like what? And they never follow up with that. And I'm like, they look like what? Tell me, what do they look like?
My assumption after going
It
through
looks
that
like Vanat's damn
cutscene,
spell.
my assumption during that, because that is the scene when he speaks of him being Amon. By association and the previous comment on Owen, I wonder if he's referring that the wording scales in composition resemble what the material Owen was trying to create to prevent tampering back in his time.
Ah,
That's
I like
how I
that.
felt as
Actually,
well.
That would make
point.
sense.
Yeah, I kind of thought that might be the case, but they didn't give us enough information that I was able to really make that connection in the moment. But that makes sense.
Yeah, same.
It's one of those things that New Game Plus or having a lot of alters is helpful for.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
Regarding alts, I'm not an altaholic, as you all may know, but I do have one, my original character, and I had zero urge to level her through Shadowbringers at all.
Your 1.0
You-
character.
Correct. Yeah.
You guys benefit from me having 25 characters
Yeah.
replaying the story.
Yeah, you're the real expert, eh?
I think among us, is it Yufao and Arden that are 1.0ists? Is there anyone else that was present during 1.0?
I played the 1.0 beta for 30 minutes, hated it, and didn't go back.
Yeah.
And then I played the 2.0 beta, didn't like it, came back in 2.1 and stayed.
So did anyone else get their names in the credits?
I don't think
Wow.
Other than Fao?
Only at the end of Endwalker.
Yeah,
There we go.
Endwalker was the exception.
I
Yeah,
love that.
That was such a sweet moment.
that was so
I know
good.
we're jumping around a little, but
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
it was good.
Yeah. I was just curious because the thing was brought up by Fao's original character.
Yeah.
But back to the
Well,
scales.
with this particular expansion, I'm definitely interested in replaying it. So I might actually boost her through Shadowbringers and just play Endwalker again. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
sounds-
really want to play Shadowbringers with. I have an alt prepared for that. Some of them that I actually have past Praktika maybe, but I really want to play Shadowbringers back again and besides checking sources of information to compare notes, just because knowing Endwalker is probably like playing a Realm Reborn after Endwalker. After Shadowbringers turns a Realm Reborn like upside down. I want to know what is to experience Shadowbringers knowing Endwalker.
That's a good point.
Especially regarding things like Emmett's character and like his reactions to things and the comparisons.
Yes.
So, looking at the warding scales here, when I saw one in hand, I first thought they have goldsmiths involved. What's going on?
So to me, it just kind of adds on to the whole like Band-Aid thing about tempering. Like we are finding these random things out of nowhere. Like we have the Porxies to eliminate tempering, and now we have these little talismans to kind of subvert the tempering effects initially. And it's like, we're never going to discover really a cure for this. We're finding Band-Aids left and right. And this just seems meh.
This is like a shield, eh?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. I mean, I guess in essence, it's like a warding spell. I mean, it's a warding scale. It's a warding spell, like the Traveler's Ward. But for anyone who hasn't had the luck of being called by Heidelin, so luck, depending on how you see it. But anyways,
because all you gotta do is carry it around like a wallet.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that intrigues me most about those is that the required element is a dragon scale.
Yeah, this is interesting. I mean, part of this is the dragons are extremely ether-rich beings. You know, they're obviously unsundered, and they're here. So they've got like a huge battery of ether. It's amazing that a scale could protect a human, but humans are pretty minuscule, I guess.
I feel like they also gave us some hints of special properties for the scales too.
Yeah, well, I was gonna touch on that maybe because in the Thavnir quests, we get some lore on the way gems work, and they have a tradition where when you gift a rare gem, you are supposed to wish upon it with the intent you're imbuing it with, and in the metaphysics of this game, you're actually imbuing a crystal with I don't know, an essence of a wish.
So this is kind of like, yeah, they're basically what they're doing here is like we've seen, like for example in Paglathon, that like dragons can still be tempered. So being a dragon, having those scales alone isn't enough. It was the combination of Reacher offering the scales up, and the alchemists and others like putting those wards and whatever into it, and then people imbuing that protection, that hope, that feeling into it, that gave it its actual like protective quality.
There's a tangent off of this as well, which relates to the MSQ in a fuller sense, right? Putting a ward of ether around Aetheris.
Yes.
Pulling a Zodiac.
Letting
There's another one of those little parallels they do.
Yeah.
That's
Tiny
true.
Zodiacs for all.
That's right. That was our impression
also,
too. Tiny Zodiac.
Also, Raqqa TV brings something up that was on my mind as well, kind of like the Raktika and Shadowbringers. They also did the thing with the gems. Like they would hold these gems, carry them throughout their lives, and those got imbued. Yeah, they got imbued with ether in a way that was actually able to be accessed and used later.
Yeah, for the Talos, they put them in the Talos as extra nodes.
Yes,
which is very interesting and seems interesting from the metaphysical angle because again, gems and being imbued.
See also convocation stones.
Yes, and it also stems from a really old tradition that's also from very ancient history. The Egyptians, for example, believed that crystals have healing and magic properties, and they used the priests and stuff. They are believed to have used these crystals as part of their rites. So
interesting.
There's
certainly
that I mean that there's real ancient history there that some people believe that these crystals could do certain things. Some others do not believe. I'm not going to go there, but there's this tradition certainly. So yeah.
Well, and it's also interesting that gems often, not all of them, but often they have a crystalline structure.
Correct.
That's
yeah.
often what gives them beauty and clarity, strength, that sort of thing. So
Mhm.
they are IRL crystals.
They
like
are.
obviously
They're
our
literal
fire
crystals.
crystals and our ice crystals are an in-game construct, but they're based off of a real thing, and that real thing is also showing up in the metaphysics, which is very interesting to me.
One thing I want to add about crystals is the crystalline structure is often referred to as perfect order or completely lacking in entropy, which would also be analogous to stasis or light.
Indeed.
I just think that's very interesting.
Yeah, I could go into that regarding the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy, but this is hardly the moment.
So let's go on to how the warding scale worked and how we approached Zot, and then what happened afterwards.
Nadana wanted to try them out once we actually had them, and that was what led us eventually to the tower and her getting yeeted into the tower, predictably.
Yeah.
Very awkward third wheel date issue that Fandaniel quickly resolved for me.
Yeah.
I mean, what? I don't mean it. I'm just beaming.
But he throws her into the wall.
It was unfortunate, honestly.
I was like, I had a feeling as soon as you walked to the door, I was like, you're gonna get eaten by this tower.
Yeah, and then we learned.
I kind of liked that the scale worked and he just like used ethereal chains.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean practicality.
I just thought it was
a little minor side note, but I love the fact that we see Hermes use chains and we see Fandaniel use chains, but Fandaniel's chains were purpley instead of greenish blue.
Yeah. Do you actually recall the? I assume you have taken the trust system into Hyperborea.
Oh yeah.
Hades and Hythlodeus teleporting during the first boss. Do you recall how the ancient teleport looks like? It's
I don't remember if it's different from the one we see in, say, Pandemonium.
I mean, it's the same animation, but instead of purple, it's the same color as Hades' chains.
They're basically like Asian teleportation, but with a different color.
Yeah, that sounds like the one in.
Yeah, go ahead, Cobra.
I just thought it was interesting in that scene how we get to see just how awful the Alligans were once the society started to stagnate.
Yeah, you get to see that flashback of that guy talking to Ammon and being just kind of a generally terrible person.
And what he did to that guy was actually identical to what he did to Scylla.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I hadn't caught on to that. That's good.
Yeah. That's
that's true.
Got wolf-headed because he didn't like her.
Yeah, turned it into an experiment.
I actually recall that flashback we have of Aemon remembering when Emetzel went to recruit him, so to speak.
I had a good time with that.
Oh, that was so good. Did
he was wearing his mask?
Thinner to you?
Yep.
Like, thinner and more slight and like kind of mischievous.
He wasn't slouching not much.
Yeah, I love seeing him with the mask.
Younger, but it was the mask thing.
And seeing him wear that and seeing that the masks I made actually fit properly.
Oh,
hell yeah.
Heck yeah.
I was actually going to comment on beyond that, which was of course a welcome surprise. Beyond that, I there's some comment aside him confirming that the Aemon we met in Circus Tower was a clone. There's this lapse in Emetzel's observations about Aemon that your methods leave a lot of desired, but if you know like we later in Elpis we know more or less we know more about how the real Hades feels about all this thing, but this was a nice slip into probably Hades looking at Aemon's experiments like this is not my taste.
Go ahead, Cobra.
This is the Hermes I remember.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm done.
Yeah, but this isn't the Hermes I remember. Yeah, you can't just raise people up who've had long established lives and think they're going to identify with the ancient past.
That's a recurring thing that we've seen several times.
We saw it with Gaia reincarnation. We saw it with Hermes, Ammon, Fandaniel.
the
seen it
guy
some other
is
places.
the Mitron
Ammon
and
Daniel?
Logriff.
That's right.
Mitron and Logriff were pretty. I mean, Logriff was pretty chill in the flashback we got from her and Mitron about it. She's like, well, I don't remember much, but please, Mitron, make me remember. And Mitron took that personally. So
I do think that in most cases, though, the old memories kind of overwrite the current ones. Whereas in Fandaniel's case, he just got the new memories, but he's like, I don't know who that guy is. That's not me. So whatever, I'm just going to keep doing my thing and enjoy these new Asian powers until...
Everybody probably had a different reaction to the situation that they found
the
themselves
thing,
It calls back to the thing that the Exarch said about mayhap the memories will mingle or mayhap they will curdle.
Yep. That's exactly
but the
right.
thing, but the thing with Haemon is that he really didn't like the Asians much. His loyalty was to Emperor Sandy, and Emperor Sandy's ideals, or so to speak, literally contradicts everything the Asians were fighting for.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you bring up, where during the flashback scene where he's talking to Zande in the etherochemical research facility, he's talking about how in the end death, claims everything, and that's been kind of a recurring theme with Zande for a long time since ARR, but that really ties into a lot of what we saw in the last zone in the game as well, where it's like, how do we overcome this despair that in the end everything is just meaningless?
Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder if, I mean, I don't know if I would have to watch some things to be able to point out, but I've seen people pointing out that the reason actually Aemon joined the Asians was to get payback for causing the Allagan Empire's fall.
I don't know.
Well, not the fall per se, mostly the calamity, because the Empire by then was already in decline and free fall, basically.
I think that it was. I got the sense more that he was worried about, like, he wanted to keep living.
That was the bargain that Emmett Selk struck. It was, hey, your empire is about to crumble. Your emperor is insane. And if you don't believe me, go check out your clone and see what's about to happen. So Fandaniel's already not in the tower. He's not in the Crystal Tower. He's not. He's out. He's out with Emmett Selk. And, minutes to hours later, the calamity at the tower occurs.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
Why is his clone so much bigger than he is?
This is your standard MMO issue where the boss has to
Context.
be 8 feet tall.
Yeah, if you wanted like an in-game explanation, it's probably like whatever he did to Glazia and Scylla and Zande, like he probably did it to his clone too to make it more combat ready.
Certainly,
I think it's an illusion.
In a meta narrative sense, it's just how do you fight the boss when he's tiny and you can barely see him?
Right,
if it looks
exactly.
like a person, it's hard. But they've been doing a much better job with that lately.
No, but in Labyrinth of the Ancients, in the raid, when you defeat Plegathon, the final boss, Graha actually comments that it was it was a common practice of the Algans to augment their soldiers to this size.
Yeah. So but Phlegathon was like specifically engineered. He was broken, and they altered his body and broke his mind to basically stop being a leader. Well, Glaciolabilus was the
fine.
Yeah, he was the head of the Imperial Guard.
He was a willing test subject.
Yes, but Phlegathon was actually leader of a rebellion. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So either way, you're getting bigified.
Yeah.
Elegance like him big.
What was that? What was that?
What?
What? Do you guys remember Biggie?
Yes, the oralists, as we may call them.
Yeah, really.
I'm not going to ask.
Please don't. So, moving on from Zot.
No, not from Zot. We got to talk about Zot.
We were in Zot just a moment ago.
But there's more to it.
We go there a few times. We
We
go
do.
there the first time and have the dinner, the
Okay,
little date with
okay.
Daniel,
And then we get the
go be
Scions.
like, "What the fuck are we gonna do about this?"
So
and
we're
come
talking
back
about
with
basing
reinforcements.
back to Charlian and then hopping over to Alamigo.
Yeah, I think
Well,
that's where we're
yeah.
at.
But we need to get to the part where we actually get rid of the tower.
Yeah.
Yes. It's right after we right after we destroy the Tower of Zot. It's when the first time the Elpis bloom turns into a different color, and then shortly after, during the Charlian dinner party, it turns into another one. So that's.
By the way, I don't know if you caught this, Val, but I caught it. After Zot, Graha does the mass teleportation spell, and then we end up at the beach, and then I'm like, oh, the Final Fantasy IV reference.
Oh, I hadn't caught that. That's good.
I haven't played 4.
That's very subtle. I like that.
Because the same thing happened. What's his name? Teleported.
It was in the town of Mist, right?
Yeah, teleported us out of the tower, and we all ended up safe, but he passed out.
Yeah,
That's
passed
right.
out in the desert.
I had forgotten about that. You're right. Holy crap.
Yeah, but it
That is
wasn't
a
just
good-
that.
that is a
This
good
game,
reference.
this expansion is filled with callbacks. I mean, just in Zod itself, the fact that that is the right theme, not just that the boss is there, or that
It wasn't. But the spell was levitation. People are asking, was it levitation?
Yes, it's
but
levitation.
we we just kind of wake up on the beach.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's a reference. It's not a direct copy.
It's subtle. It's really good.
Yeah.
So, did anybody have before we actually went back to? Gosh, it's funny. It's been a month, but I can't quite remember the exact flow of events.
We go back to Charlian and like debrief after Zot, and then we learn about the Osamard contingent and how they're gathering in Alamigo, and we also get to see Gaius at one point. And now he's like, "I'm not coming with you because I would be just a problem."
Do we?
Which
In the
I disagree with
meantime,
that.
there's this cutscene with Van Daniel and Xenos looking up at the sky and having a heart-to-heart, so to speak. And it's basically the moment when Van Daniel goes like, well, there's the loss of one tower isn't really a problem, but if your friend decides to come here with an army, and if your friend is
ahead of
bold
the Tower of
enough,
Zot, then
this
is after the dungeon.
Yeah, that's it's going to be kind of a problem. And Xenos is like, oh, they're absolutely going to come here.
Yeah, so this.
And he was like hoping
Zod,
they would.
yeah.
I think he was hoping they would.
And Xenos and Van Daniel is like, oh fuck, okay.
Yeah, I'll prepare for your guests. So is the order of operations something like this? We do Zone 1, Zone 2, go back to Charlian to debrief, then go to Alamigo to speak with everyone.
No, that happens after we defeat the Tower of Zot.
Do we
Tower
go
of Zot was the 81.
But do we go straight to Zot?
Yeah, but basically the deal was with Ritra, we'll take care of the tower and you give us a buttload of warding scales.
Got it.
And he definitely gives us a buttload, but it's I believe it's they furnish us with enough scales to actually go into the tower for the scions, but they didn't have the production all the way up at that point. So
they worked on the scales afterwards. And we had the scene with Madonna, and she talks about
happens.
No, I did Thavnir first, you see.
Yeah.
As did I, but foul. That's Zot how it goes.
Yeah, the Zot stuff is after the branch.
First. I did Labyrinthos first, so I think it made a little more sense for that reason. It was like you go to Labyrinthos, you try to help out with figuring things out there, then you go to Thavnir, and then it's like not long afterwards you go back to deal with the tower. Then you go back to Charlian, and then you go to Garlemald after that.
See, for me, I did Thavnir first as well, and they were like, hey, give us some time while we prepare the scales, and then I did Charlene.
It made sense to me as well.
It made sense to me.
Oh my god, PEMDAS, oh god.
Yeah, order of operations, that's my fault.
Just got blasted from the pasted.
But yeah, I remember when we were getting the scales, that was with Nadana, and that's when she and the Scions and stuff started talking about the Hanish concept of Akasa, which we learned later was their version of Dynamis, like their understanding of it.
Yeah, Akasha.
Yeah, it's actually curiously, I would bring the point that well, did I share this with you? I think I did share it with you or in the Discord, but not in live. That we're discussing. We're kind of already scattering LPs all over this thing. So the LPs blooms turn. The LPs bloom turn. Well, not the one we have. The LPs blooms we see through the game actually turn into the color of the eyes of each ancient that we meet in game as of now. We have met. And the first time we see the LP's bloom turn into a color is golden. And that's when Nidana is all excited about the great work of the alchemist
The
paying
quest is
off.
called The Color of Joy, yeah.
Yeah, but that's kind of complicated because the quest itself involves isn't finished after the dinner party in which the Elpis Bloom turns into green, which
I don't
is
think there's any argument for them being joyful. It was more like contentment, happiness, camaraderie, and the dinner. So
but
you just gotta use your brain.
Yeah, but joy
that
in
came
the
out
sense
wrong. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. I'm so bad.
No, it's fine.
Just have to use logic.
No, it's fine. I no offense taken.
Okay, I'm glad.
Perfectly fine. No, but I mean, the color of when it's the golden color, which, by the way, you probably are guessing which ancient it matches with. It's also the color of. We know that Dynamis is the source of limit breaks. Which color is the limit break bar?
It's golden once it's full up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like orangey and then it turns gold.
Yeah, basically. So I'm kind of guessing it could be the color of maybe. I'm not going to say resolve. Maybe just. I don't know. Because I'm trying to find a way to describe the feelings influencing the LP's blooms changing color through the story, but it's kind of difficult for me. So I'm like,
Yeah, I was expecting a full rainbow / all the element colors, and we did not get them all. And I was like, Oh,
we kind of got the elemental wheel.
Missing one, right?
No,
we had them all.
My apologies. I apparently went too fast through it or something. This is why it's not just a Melor stream, because I always miss stuff too.
So yeah, well, anyways, so yeah, that happened, and then after the dinner Charlian party, it's off to the Ilsebardian contingent introduction.
Wait a minute, hold on.
What?
I just wanted to touch on the actual dungeon, because the boss fight with the Mega Sisters was really fun for me. Did anyone else have a ton of fun with that?
Yeah, it was interesting and challenging, but cool.
It kept you on your toes and definitely gave me the sense that this expansion, the meta, is you get to move a lot as a black mage or anything else.
Yeah.
I thought
it was great until I had to run it like 15 times with my trust.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and also that at the ending of it, also that there's a limb of a guy in a giant machine, and I'm like, wait, what?
Seems kind of important.
Which limb?
Which
I will also say,
which limb?
I will also say that as a Final Fantasy IV fan, the music in the dungeon was just fantastic.
Right.
That's Golba's theme, right?
It's the Tower of Zot theme, properly.
It's the Tower of Zot theme.
Okay.
It's the same melody, but Golba's is like in 3, and this one's in like it's in a different arrangement.
Yeah, but it's
Okay.
basically
Same notes, different arrangement.
It's basically the villain theme of 4, like the basic default.
Yeah, which gives me hope that we'll get the trial series for the 4 elemental fiends. I'm really hoping for that.
That'll be exciting.
I would love that.
I even liked that the well, you know, the tendrils, the vines, whatever you want to call them, they made it look mechanical enough that it did kind of look like the Tower of Zot power cables.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's all. I just wanted to touch on it.
The HR Giger
The bit
dungeon.
at the end was very like, oh my god, like it's just like there's a man's limb in there. I'm like, what? That was an oh no moment.
Do we want to talk about the actual meeting in Alamigo? Did people?
Like, I mean,
we can.
The entire B team awaits us.
Yeah, the entire B team.
It was
I-
cool, honestly, having everyone together.
I
I
mean,
really enjoyed it.
yeah. I mean, the Ilsevar contingent is kind of one of these things that actually personally made me care a lot for characters that I was like, "Man, you exist, all right."
Also, I apologize, Coveron, but this basically confirms that Lise is a B team member.
You shut your dirty whore mouth.
Sorry, but she has been relegated to the B team.
Yeah, so one thing moving along from that incorrect point, one thing I really liked about that scene is that is where we really started to see the reflection of past quest lines that had been completed coming into the MSQ. So I played through as a white mage, and there was a lot of extra dialogue as white mage. And I talked to a friend of mine who ran through it as a monk. They had different dialogue as well for monk, even though that one wasn't voiced. But I just thought it was really cool how, you know, if you've leveled monk and you've gone through all the pugilist story, you get a letter from Hamon, and then they're like, let's forget this letter even exists because it's terrible because it's from Hamon.
Yeah. Having all at 90, I got all the little tidbits, and it was really, really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only one I
80,
didn't get at level 80 was the only at that point the only one I didn't have a level 80 was warrior. And I don't know if I missed anything, but the other dialogues I got, and
They had the Marauder dude there, which was a little interesting to see him again. But otherwise, there was no warrior connection.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was interesting to see all the dialogue. The main thing I think though was like white mages got a lot of reference because they had one of the Padjal there.
The white mages got voiced lines if you were a white mage.
Indeed, the heir of a Toa Kant.
Yeah, it was great. Absolutely great.
Yes, and then there's we had and there were two. If you've done the bar quest, there were two Sanson and Guide a lot. That was great.
Yeah.
Those two.
Okay, is it Guide-a-lot or Guidalo? Because I call him Guidalo.
It's definitely low.
He's an I would say he's an Elzen, right? Then
means
it'll be like
French.
Gaidalo or something.
Yeah, how you pronounce it though.
I don't know.
Guidalo?
I don't speak baguette.
Wow.
Yes, Bahamut
Next week
gets
we'll
the point.
We'll have a guest appearance by Baguette.
White mages are the main characters of this game.
Yes, absolutely.
Bah.
I mean, they were the cause of a calamity, so yeah.
That's true.
It wasn't the Maki?
I mean,
That's why white
Not
magic's
wrong.
illegal.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
unless you're really cool and then you get dispensation.
And then there's Salka Solka from the Scholar Quest, if you've done them. There's the Pagilis, there's the Thaumaturge Guild, Thaumaturges, the siblings.
You're just deflecting at this point. Admit it.
What?
Midnight Colruyt also says, then the cryptic message from Grandma yet again from Cyrena. That was a thing. Yeah, that was
a thing.
That was like, since I know several of our team has been watching her what she says very closely.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm upset that she's the one who has all these tidbits of wisdom when it's the Tharl that actually got everything right. I'm like, why is not Saku telling us everything? She's like, yeah, I just hooked up with Cyrena because her grandma's really smart. But yeah, we're actually right, so fuck
Just
off.
walk into her tent, slam
Magnite.
walk into the mole tent, slam your foot down in front of the mole grandma and be like,
How about,
Enunciate, please.
if we're talking about
Shake the lizard.
if we're talking about Cyrano and the Datharl, as we say, should we talk about the subtextual love affair?
Why is that the? Why did you
They're
pinpoint
very
that
cute
amongst them?
together.
It was adorable.
Serena and Sadu, and then also Sicard
Sadu,
and Mandolin.
yeah.
Well,
also
no
canon.
one's doubting
Sadu.
Sicard and Manolin. That's the best thing that came up that came from the Ultrabar contingent.
I'm sorry, that was as subtle as Reen and Gaia.
Yeah, it was not subtle at all.
Yeah. We're not
And
talking
Magna
about
being their
third wheel.
Monolane.
Make me.
You know, I used to have this thought about the mole,
Bilge Red.
how we had essentially doomed them by putting them in the front and center of the Zayla and winning the Nadam for them. And after I saw that Sadu and Cyrano hooked up, I was like, all right, the mole are going to be fine. I'm not worried about them anymore.
Got a very close alliance.
I had a lot. I actually have to say that I love Sicard this expansion.
Same.
What
You mean
which
Baby
was,
Xenos?
it was
Yes, baby Xenos.
yeah, maybe Xenos. No, I mean back
God.
in 5.4 when he was first introduced. I mean, Luke Allen Gale's voice is actually easy to recognize sometimes if you know certain cues from voice acting, and I was like, the first time he appeared in 5.4, I was like, isn't he Luke Allen Gale? And then when the credits rolled in 5.5, and of course he was credited as Sicard, and I was like, I'm amazing. Not really, but a big yes moment for me. But I'm surprised by the range of this guy.
Oh yeah, he's incredible.
All right. So moving on.
And of course, one thing, it was great to have Lucia back in the States again.
Oh my god, yes, I have missed her, and I was lamenting the fact that we haven't really seen her since Heavensward.
Yeah, having her and Maxima also just be like the Garleans that we have interacting, and being able to like have them interact with the Garleans that are in Garlemald, like Euless, that was a really good touch.
Yeah, and I did appreciate that. I mean, like, even though we've seen her, she hasn't really done anything since Heavensward. That's probably what I should say.
Yeah, and Maxima finally had a bit more of a role too, since his like briefer appearance in Stormblood.
I do wish that they had been in the front of the vanguard, though, to make it more like, hey, we're fellow Garleans coming to help you. But, you know, that's once we get to Garlemald.
Yeah. Might have been a little bit more tactically sound.
Yeah, that's actually something that comes up, that the idea actually comes up to Maxima after we tell the first disastrous foray into certain survivors.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it doesn't help. It doesn't help that the people they're fighting are tempered, so like logic is kind of out at that point.
Yeah,
and
it really upset me too. That's another reason I was really upset that Gaius didn't come with us. He was like, "No, it would look weird if I went with you." And I'm like, "You motherfucker, you're the perfect person. You are such a loyalist to the Empire. You are someone that people would relate to and respect, even though people had all this misinformation that Gaius killed the Emperor, blah, 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 blah. Like, by that point, they kind of knew that Xenos was the one who was doing everything.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point.
You would think.
Hence why they said later on, like, they say later on, yeah, he's Viator now because we know he murdered his dad and he did all this shit.
Yeah.
And later on, it's like, well, those who were tempered to Varus would be very upset about the person who quote-unquote killed him, since obviously they don't know because Xenos is there in the palace and they're just happily, doing their thing. So in hindsight, like, it might not have worked out well if he had come, but they couldn't have known that at the time. They didn't know what Anima was.
Do we want to talk about the actual battle engagement that we get into? I was really impressed by it, to be honest.
I agree. I thought it was a lot of fun.
So, like, coming straight, basically, the way I ran the story, because I had to do, I did Zod, so I was impressed by the dungeon, and then we got to the first real solo duty, and I was just really impressed with the way they put the dialogue boxes with the like perfectly rendered cartoon face.
That was good.
This is Thancred.
This is
very,
Metal Gear
very
Thancred. Yeah, that part, the pre-mission. Oh boy.
The portraits were I was actually surprised and very hyped because the portraits, the character portraits, they remind me so much of Final Fantasy Tactics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I think that was the intention.
I was like, oh god.
Oh, I had feels.
I mean, if you've seen the Final Fantasy, and I'm not saying the original Tactics. I'm saying the dialogue boxes style of Tactics Advance and Tactics Advance 2.
Mm-hmm.
Which
yes,
I want to bring up on that topic. Isn't Matsuno still working on another project for Square?
yes.
I
Which
think yes.
which would indicate to me that they didn't depart on bad terms. It was just
No.
yeah.
Well, and Bao refers. Bao completely agrees with me on this one. That tweet was meant to say he wasn't going to be working on the current version of the game, but another version, another game.
The way the way that it was translated, unfortunately, I mean, we speak English here, and so like when you say in another game, you don't mean the next expansion, you mean another title. This is a difference. So I was freaked out and a little bit worried, but now not so much. I think we're gonna get some of that here.
Yeah, and they left Bozja open-ended enough. Like we still haven't met Ashelia, even though they've talked about her in game.
Yep.
We still don't have a resolution to whether or not what's his name? Not Noel.
Gabranth.
Thank
Noah.
you.
Noah.
Thank you. Noah Gabranth actually died in the fire. They just found a body that was burned, and we don't know what happened to Lions. So there's a lot that's still open-ended with Bozja that I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to go off on that tangent.
No, it's okay.
No, I think that there's still going to be. I think there's at least going to be an instant zone or just like a small area like Gagos that you can go to meet all these characters.
I want to go to Landis and Corvos.
So I was about to say Corvos strikes me as possibly what the relic content is going to focus around because they talked about Corvos so much during the expansion.
By the way,
I mean, I want to visit the Garlean homeland, so yeah.
So I have to summon my retainer wife right now because I'm out of drink.
Also, I have also I have conflicting feelings because saying Corvos is faster, quicker, but the proper name is Locus Amenus, so I'm like because I'm kind of salty that the Corvosi actually kicked the Garleans out of the place because we got magic, you don't.
That sucks to be you.
The audience, definitely just do a Google search on Locus Amoenus, because it's a term that is not like it's not from Final Fantasy. Okay, so it's Latin for a pleasant place, and there's a whole article on it on Wikipedia, and the all of the images I see are just this beautiful like lush green, sometimes forest, sometimes jungle, sometimes countryside, but like a place you could live at, and Garlibald got booted out, so
yeah, which is interesting because it's very interesting because they state earlier that the Gaugans were the predecessors to the Garleans.
That's right.
And they had this perfectly good piece of land.
Yep.
And they left.
When you can't cast fireballs, you're at a disadvantage.
When I was thinking on that question, I was looking at how Ridorania Cataract existed as a result of the calamity that brought about the water, like the Russian water situation. And they mentioned that around like 900 years ago or something, if I remember correctly, was when the Garleans got kicked out of Locus Amoenus.
Wow.
I'm thinking that something like that. So I was thinking that maybe like the Gugans, who would become the Garleans, moved from Ridorania and the more southern climes to Locus Amoenus, lived there for a while, got kicked out, and then went eventually into where they ended up in Garlemald. That they ended up moving a lot over time, gradually from that starting point.
I mean, Corvus is across this stretch of sea dividing Thavner with Ilsebard.
That's right.
So
It's
it
right.
would
It's not all
make
that far away.
it's not far away from Dalmasca and what the Ridorana Lighthouse should be located. So it's
You're saying
perfectly
maybe it's
possible.
just part of the region then.
So,
Yeah.
going back to the topic of the Garlemald skirmish, I was surprised that we got to meet the 3rd Legion commander.
Same.
Yes,
Virgilia, and she
Cool.
she wears the armor of Judge Drace. I was like, yes.
I was wondering why we didn't actually get to talk to her though at any point.
Yeah, that made me
also,
sad.
too,
I was told she was cured or was about to be cured.
Yes.
Like once
She'll
we
come
had
back into
captured
the
her.
plot. I'm certain of it.
I'm hoping so. I want to talk to her.
I
Garlemald
this
restoration!
conversation will involve her.
I was gonna say if the
Go ahead.
yeah. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I think that this conversation, when it does occur, will definitely bring Gaius back into the story, along with.
so and during this plot, we actually know the true version of who Thancred is.
What?
Solid Snake.
Oh,
Cute.
you mean Naked Snake?
Fine.
Nutkin Snake.
This is Thancred.
This is Thancred the Glamoured.
Well, at least we hear all about his like infiltration skills, but we actually get to play it, and that is just
We find out who he is. That's
I hope when we talk to her as well, going back to the commander lady, that she'll maybe tell us if she knows where she might think like Nerva and them went, because Garlemald
that's a big old hole in the
kind of
story.
hints a little bit, but we don't know where they ran off
She
to.
used such a neat weapon too.
She
I was
did.
when I saw
What,
her, I was
spear?
like, hell yes, dragoon or spear sisters.
Yeah.
I was just happy to see a Legion commander who was female, but aside from Neil Van
Oh, yeah.
Darnus.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, one who
That
wasn't
too.
hiding.
But I would say that was in hiding, so it doesn't exactly count the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good feel. I'm really excited, and the thing about Nerva, it's not quite a plot hole. I mean, the side quests in Garlemald address it, but we don't know where they went.
It's a dangling thread.
It's a dangling
I will say
thread, yes.
I've not attacked any of the side quests yet, so that's still outstanding.
That's why I'm trying to keep it vague. Yeah.
And I
One
will keep
thing
it
that
vague,
I love from going to Garlemald and because one thing and meeting more than one legatus in one place in their homeland, I was like, okay, so right now, I wonder if it's something Ilsebardian, which maybe since Ilsebard is kind of their homeland, sort of, and maybe legatuses that are assigned to foreign non-Ilsebardian provinces were something different. See Valens, see Gaius, see his the other ones in Aran Reborn. But those we've met in Ilsebard, they all were Final Fantasy XII Judge armors, and that's so cool.
They even had the logo design on the cape.
Yes. Yeah,
Which
so,
is why
yeah.
I hope we get to visit Gabranth again, because
Yes.
Yes.
Koberan, really quick.
Yeah.
Just to keep it obscenely vague, like very vague. One would imagine that side quests in a zone like Garlemald, as we see it, involve escapes and refugees and that kind of thing, missing family members. So there are threads all about that kind of subject.
Yeah, I imagine that it would be very reminiscent of the Little Alamigo quests, which is kind of ironic, actually.
With more depression.
Yeah, because it just happened. They had
With more depression.
20, 25 years to deal with it. The Garleans just had it happen.
It was like literally.
It certainly
this week.
makes a comparison, though.
Yeah.
going past the
duty.
whole the duty. Yeah, we established our foothold, known as Camp of Broken Glass. Thanks, Lucia.
Yeah.
And
I was not a fan of that name.
no, that's like, okay, what do we call?
Are we trying to offend the locals?
Let's name this
Yes.
camp. Let's name this camp Snowgrounds or Camp Frozen Tree.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
Garleans, so we have to name everything something depressing or Latin.
Yeah, it's like camp.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Think of
The
anything
actual name-
generically offensive to a city
actual-
that got demolished.
The actual name of the encampment, which is actually a town, is Laterum. I don't actually recall what it means in Latin, if it means anything at all. But it's brought up in side quests and main scenario quests.
Yeah. Kappa says she wishes she could know more about Lucia's sister, who we killed in Castro.
And also killed again in Adiascope.
Yes, and then we killed her soul again in the Adiascope.
Yeah.
F.
Oh, Lucia.
Livia, you were too.
She was too thirsty for this world.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
She's
so
the only
Stay
one of the original four villains of Final Fantasy ARR that I still don't feel bad for.
I feel bad for Ritalin. I know it's Ritalin, and I call him Ritalin.
Ritalin.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I feel bad for
Ritalin.
I am. It's unfortunate that her personality went that way, but she's a big bag of evil. So
yeah, but I feel like now, knowing what happened in Garlemald, a lot of that was owing to the Garlean propaganda that they had going on.
Yeah,
that was very much. It was completely infused in every aspect of their life and everything. Yeah, they were fully indoctrinated. They honestly believed what they were doing was the right thing. Even Gaius did. And once Gaius kind of took a step back, and got the wake-up call, he was like, I still believe in the Empire. I still believe in bringing peace to the entirety of the three great continents. But there is a cancer in the Empire, and I cannot stop until I can root it out.
That's right.
They wanted to stop the threat of the primals too, genuinely as well.
It definitely provides and in my opinion, it's an intentional comparison, a link or a similarity to tempering.
Yeah.
I have my opinions, but
Aetherless tempering.
Yeah, it's not actual tempering, but it's the real world closest equivalent.
I would say it's the tempering of the mind as opposed to tempering of the soul. Even though there's no mind ether, but I guess memories would count.
Mnemonic ether.
Yeah.
So
I would, if you allow me, make a how do you call it? A reflection. Anyways, a thought. We've been saying that they've been indoctrinated, that their fear of magic is like tempering and stuff. Okay, of course, there's an element of them thinking that because they have a story of being bullied by magic users too, and their isolation didn't help, certainly. But if we're going by comparisons, what have you heard of people in Eorzea or even in Northord describe Garlemald's Magitech as?
Oh, no doubt.
Like, they might have been victims of, let's say, propaganda, but the Eorzeans and the Othardians, they have too.
There's no doubt.
Everybody has their spin.
I would just say that particular.
That's absolutely right.
It's definitely more a stronger effect, I would argue, in Garlemald because they are winning, but they were winning. You know what I mean?
They have a grander aim.
Because they're at the heart of a large empire, and the people, especially there in the capital, they're going to be really out of touch, even with the rest of the country, let alone their constituent nations. All the reports coming in are going to be like, yes, we have wonderful, glorious rule over province. Everyone is so happy except for these evil dissident elements. But don't worry, we took care of them.
Yeah. We've seen this story.
They're not getting a clean view of it.
The thing that
is definitely got some propaganda going on as well, but there's a lot more intermingling.
the thing that Julius says is that, well, I'm not. When Alice asks him, "What do you think of magic?" and I'm like, "Well, your usual guardian would jump away like like 2 meters away from you if you saw it, if they saw it." But I'm a soldier of the first, so I've
seen it.
I've seen it. I've seen conscripted and other races, because Garlemald is not just pure Garleans.
Right.
There's a population there of native Ellison and pure as well.
So I do want to make one point. When they brought up that point of how do you think a Garlean would react, it just reminded me so much of that scene in Final Fantasy VI when Terra cast magic for the first time in front of Edgar and Locke, and they're just like, "What the fuck was that?"
If you can picture the pixel art, I can. Oh,
you wanted your your Final Fantasy VI references. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fair.
Definitely kind of alludes to the same idea.
Magic?
Yeah.
Magic? I mean, in the CDNT, there's Locke as a playable character, and he has that line voiced in English.
Yeah.
Does he?
Just
Yes!
to bring this reference home to any audience members who haven't played 6, the basic story of 6 is that there is no magic left. Magic has left this world, and then Terra, for some reason, has it, and you explore that plot thread. You get magic in the game, but nobody except Terra has it naturally. So
Keyword naturally.
Naturally. Truly naturally. Yeah. So. I guess where were we? Camp Broken Glass, eh?
Yep.
So we go out
I was checking
we capture all the soldiers.
Sorry, I was checking out, doing a quick check of the Latin term of the Latin name of the original town, Laterum. It's actually the plurals for flanks.
Okay, so going back quick, well, sorry to cut you short on that. So we go from Camp Broken Glass quickly to checking in for Ceruleum to finding a small encampment of Garleans.
Garulians. That's a thing. So I guess those are the people made of Gulas. I know.
Hey, there we go.
The Garulians.
Jeez.
Not to be confused with the Grebulov.
I'm sorry.
Just torment the poor man.
There's the laugh we all know.
Yeah, Spanish laugh.
We go from Spanish cough to Spanish laugh. Except now she cuts out so we can't hear the full laugh.
That's the clipping.
Tragedy.
That's the clipping. So the quest I disliked the most in the entire zone was, in fact, the tracking the girl across the snow. I failed it about 6 times. Learning the mechanics.
Before we get to that, let's go with the beginning, because we don't want to spoil the end and go back to the beginning.
So we did the duty. We're talking about arriving at the Camp Broken Glass.
Yeah, and meeting them. But we don't want to talk about how it ends. Let's talk about meeting them and what they're like.
Initially
personable. Once we got to
personable.
the camp, we were like, we need to find some people, see if there's anyone who's not tempered around, and we start.
Right.
And that's when we encounter the one and follow her back to her little thing, which I'm sure is not terrifying at all to a person who's hiding out, desperately afraid, and probably, all this stuff going on.
If I recall,
hiding her
something
sister.
like there's a girl in the distance, we should probably track her.
Yes.
Like this.
And then we arrive, and there's at least like 4 or 5 of them just kind of hiding away in a little shack with one kind of remains to be
a retired soldier's retreat, it sounded like.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. Some retreat.
And they have
Your spoils.
They have a radio, mysteriously, that has kept them safe.
I recall the Warrior of Lights stare at the radio like, what the fuck is that?
This contraption.
You know about it being
I remember those from Amarot.
A retired soldier.
Coincidence? I think not.
Doesn't this play some jazzy tunes or something? It's just playing a really depressing one right now.
All I could think of was like, what's this fancy orchestrion? Why can it only play one song?
it's sad because the theme, the Guardian, when they explain, when he explains
Oh my god.
the meaning of that song, it's called "Home Beyond the Horizon," and it's an ode of their loss of Locus Amenus and an ode for those who went to reclaim their ancestral homeland.
Yes.
I have literally sat in Tertium for hours just playing that song. It's such a good song, and it really made me sad listening to it, and the way it was used was just so effective for me.
Yeah, and how I could imagine it also having the double meaning of like, yeah, Solus came up with this because Lol Amarant. He intended it as a meaning for like the Garleans and Locus Amonis, but like there was obviously, I think, a little bit of that. I'm also wanting to go to my home.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just think it's a credit to Soken that he basically took the bad guy anthem and made it into such an emotionally, I want to say, devastating theme for the loneliness and desperation of Garlemald.
All of the music in this expansion, honestly, all of it is like in some way or another blown me away. Every day I listen to his music and I'm like, man, I'm so
I personally adore the introduction of Garlemald that Hades' narration gives us. I have that introduction seared in my brain because I loved it. It was the first time he actually got personal when narrating something. And
you could tell he actually really cared about the Garleans to an extent.
Yeah,
I think he saw a lot of himself in them for sure, and his desire to go home was mirrored in theirs.
I mean, yes, but at the same time, it's like there's two lines of his narration that got me hard. Like one of them is the chosen forsaken. I was like, oh god.
Far colder than the heavens I have known.
Yes, that one too.
Far colder on the earth than in the heavens.
So.
Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah, that one was like, oh.
Far colder on the earth than in the heavens.
And there was. Wow. And it's all accompanied by the Ilsebardian contingent entering Laterum, which is deserted, and it's like you get they are walking in like oddly calming, and you get the feeling that if this were back in Stormlord, you were like, how could one imagine that this is how we would enter Garlemald?
Oh, like, that was the only way we were ever going to enter Garlemald. We were only ever going to enter to save them, ever.
Yeah, if it was still a city that was like at the head of an empire and like not like totally screwed over, we'd have been outnumbered 100-1, and we would be there as a prisoner.
It's not even that. If we were to like fight our way into and push the Garlean Empire back that much, it would be pretty messed up, and I don't think particularly morally correct to invade them and like what kill their emperor.
Yeah,
like,
it would have been. It was
no way it was going to work. Like I had actually speculated before 5.3 about what if there was another calamity, and I was thinking, well, what if it hits Garlemald and then we can go there as like a humanitarian operation. I didn't guess final days, but otherwise I was pretty damn close.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yes.
And I was gonna say along these lines, like this, just the way that the developers of XIV storyboard things, they try not to make us do things that are outright aggressive or like acts of aggression.
Yeah.
Now it's funny because we end up doing them pretty frequently, but they try to frame it in a way where it's not like an invading force, it's some aggressive defense or something else. And in this case,
it's a fine line to walk.
This is the place worst, like most affected, and we decided to go up there. So.
I actually really, in terms of design, one thing that Garlemald really struck me as it's a really interesting mix of concepts because it's like, yeah, we knew that they're based on the Roman Empire, but at the same time, there's going in there. It's like it's obviously Soviet Russia, and
Soviet Russia ex Rome.
I thought it was
Yeah.
pretty humorous that they stuck the Soviet Union and Roman Empire together because of like Russia's
Absolutely.
long-standing position as the third Rome.
Yep.
Yeah, and at the same time, the issues that Lord Quintus brings up, one of them is, I mean, when he's discussing peace with Alfina and Alice and the Warrior of Light, the situation he was describing, I don't know how the audience is, how well versed the audience is in European history or modern history, but that's just the fear Lord Quintus voices in that meeting is basically Garlemald becoming the Germany post World War One, turning into a Republic of Weimar, and yeah, no one wants to become the Republic of Weimar.
So going in order of events, we're going back to like the radio that we were talking about. We get tricked by the local the band there, and Alphanut ends up being attacked, and the girl ends up running away with her sister, and then we find an unfortunate end.
They killed themselves.
They wandered out into basically certain death. It wasn't like we want to die, but it was we view this other thing as worse than death.
Yeah, they were at least accepting that if they died, at least they wouldn't end up in the hands of the enemy.
What the argument the other civilian was giving was that they believed, because of course we being naturally aligned to magic, of course, the first thing Alfina and Alice consider is healing them with magic. But these are citizens of Garlemald who, you know, their stance of magic. They are like,
through propaganda,
what
magic is no.
Yeah,
they're scared. They're scared.
It's a thing that's unknown to them.
That too,
it's
of
like,
course.
It's like if someone were to walk up to me and do a magical spell and be like, "Oh, what the fuck? What's going on? What?"
They associated it with primals as well.
That too.
I forgot about
that. They thought that Alfinel's healing magic was like they refused to be healed by their magic because their argument is we're going to end we're under your spell like everyone. All of you, they literally believe, of course, that magic is a manifestation of the temperate, and it makes sense because it's. I mean, according to Encyclopedia Orsia, one of the ways other nations had to attack the Guardians was to summon primals. So yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that really struck me about that, and that scene in particular, was how much it reminded me of when the United States was invading the outer islands of Japan during World War II. How the Japanese would say to their citizens that the Americans are going to come, they're going to rape your families, kill your children, all this stuff. And people were killing themselves instead of, surrendering. And it just reminded me of that, how much fear there was of Eorzea and the Eorzeans coming and just destroying their entire way of life. And I'm not saying that what the Garleans did was okay by any means. I mean, there was no justification for that. But there was a difference between the state and the people, in my mind.
Yeah, there always is. There absolutely always is. And that's part of what we see in Garlemald, right? It's the idea that people in leadership are doing a certain thing and there are conscripts and all the evils of war and expansionism and all of this. But ultimately, the people there are people in a world who can't use any magical spells whatsoever. People very much like our real world. And they just want to live their lives in comfort and peace. So
honestly, I wouldn't
it's a different story.
Honestly, I wouldn't even really. I mean, judging war is something that for me is really complicated because hearing documentaries on war and the soldiers who fight and stuff, it's a different world entirely. It's a different reality than from our cozy, conflictless lives. Most of all, people who go to war live and are changed dramatically because of these experiences. So I'm not going to. I don't like judging these things. Most of it's kind of complicated.
It's hard to judge it as something that you can judge as someone who hasn't been through it, basically.
Exactly. And I can only take from Lord Quintus's speech or words. I really like Lord Quintus because
we'll get to. He's gonna appear here in a few moments. He's our next stop.
I really liked that he actually gave a reason for why they chose this path, and it's like, what probably started as a defensive move, because they actually describe it as, listen, we had to defend ourselves. And actually, if you've done the Reaper quests, it was up until recently that they had actually to defend themselves.
Haven't done them yet, but I will.
Okay, sorry. I mean, I think the Reaper quests are quite interesting
They're interesting
in regards to the.
They're interesting, but they're
very
not
good.
amazing.
I liked
Fine.
them. They gave me a lot of good lore.
I didn't get the context, or I didn't get what I wanted out of them, but I got a lot of good information.
Yes, and the thing is that what started as defense became more like, as Quintus said, if it's a choice between you and me, then it's hardly a choice at all.
Exactly.
And they sincerely, and when we say it's something about the high spheres, well, it's true that in a war, it's said that it's the rulers who make the choices and the soldiers who are sent to die. That's true, but at the same time, when Lord Quintus speaks of when everything's going down, that they indeed, and his legatus are the first, and he speaks of Varys too, and what he speaks is of peace and prosperity, and I think that's really what they really wanted, and that's the only way they saw coming from their experiences, like having been driven out of their homeland, being assailed by many nations. They were acquainted with conflict and war, and they say, okay, well, this is the only way to achieve peace for everyone and be done with it. But going a bit too far ahead, that's basically what the Omicrons had to face.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I was about to say the Garleans and the Omicrons are in motivation very, very similar.
Let's not skip ahead.
I hadn't thought about that. That's good.
With that said, we're about 5 minutes to ending time, so I just want to set expectations. We will absolutely not be finishing Garlemald today, but we're very excited to finish the discussion. And also, I just want to take this moment. Chat pretty much behaved, but I want to remind members to be very careful when they're striding close to real-life subjects that could inflame controversy in chat. We do have to moderate and haven't had to yet, but things did get very close for a few minutes, and just wanted to make it known. Please be careful.
It's especially true for Garlemald, because it's such a controversial subject
so close to
right now.
It's very
Absolutely.
controversy rich, and it's meant to make you feel that way. Just try to keep chat civil. That's all I'm asking.
It's a video game. Have fun with it.
Yep.
Way to make it awkward, Foul.
Hey, sorry. Sometimes
Fiction is a healthier way of dealing with real life situations that are really complicated like this. But it's a lot messier in real life. It's not a one-to-one, and people shouldn't really be making value judgments on the basis of fiction alone.
Mm-hmm.
I recall one. Someone on Twitter saying that Garlemald, that the Garlemald arc was something that the Twitter community of 14 was going to have a hard time just processing. I think it may be true, sadly, because apparently for some reason, gray morality is like, you know.
I don't know that it's that hard to understand, but it's certainly unfortunate that it's that.
It's not a matter of understanding, in my opinion. It's acceptance. We look at this stuff and we think, well, I would never do that. I would never be like that. And I think a lot of this fiction. I think a lot of this fiction is working very hard to say no. Anyone can become a monster under the right circumstances, and it's important to recognize that so you don't become one.
That's what this story's been trying to
That's
teach
my take.
since the beginning, more or less. I mean, even when we were fighting Gaius and ARR, it was like, wait, no, he's right. But we're going to go ahead and do a preemptive strike because we want our home. Like I felt
there's a lot of conflicting needs too,
Yeah,
and morality has to take a second seat to survival.
correct, always.
Yes, and I personally enjoy Garlemald so much because it's like it brings to mind that they're just people. When you go there, they're just people like everyone we've met. They're only basically their only sin, so to speak, is that they've been on the other side of the fence, and that's a story always repeated by soldiers who have come back from war. The war stories, especially from World War I and World War II, are full of these testimonies of soldiers.
I saw it myself in Afghanistan too.
Karaka TV has a point that really just cuts to the heart of it, which is it's part of human nature. Garlemald is more of a cautionary tale, in my opinion. So my take on that is, you know, defend yourself to the limits of your territory, but don't cause an expansive war that makes people worldwide hate your guts. And then when things come falling down around you,
yeah.
Right.
I liked Garlemald a lot too because Fandaniel was there and I got to have fun hangout times with him. And it was a great time.
He gave you exposition.
He did.
A butler outfit.
We'll get there.
We'll get time to get into how much I like that today. We'll do it another day.
So
next week.
Discussing the dinner date next week.
Can't wait.
Next week. Yep. We'll stop it there because a certain blue-haired individual visited us.
Blue-haired with pronouns.
I wouldn't be surprised if Garlemald actually takes all of Spoilercast 4. So I guess we're at a natural stopping point here. Does that sound good, everyone?
Yep.
All right, so we'll touch back at the supposed soldiers' retreat that looks like a pauper's group home. And I thank you all for coming to hang out with us.
Yeah, we'll do it again next week and get more into this.
Start off next week
to get through all this, I think.
Yeah. Start off next week. About was it about halfway through Garlemald when they showed up?
Yeah, next week we can discuss Tertium and
Tertium and then the rest, and then we'll probably get. We'll probably get to the moon.
And I'd like to get to Babel. I'd like to get to the moon, but we'll see.
Yep.
Yes.
To the moon.
To the moon.
The moon.
One of these days.
Bang zoom straight to the moon.
It's haunted.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next week.
It was actually haunted.
It was.
Imagine.
Moon's haunted.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was great to have you today. We'll do it again next week.
Thank you all.
All right.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.